what you feel is the best thing for your own life. Your individual rights are being taken away, and it's frightening. In fact, more and more, in the last 4 years, you are finding that you are not able to, the government is taking more charge of what you're allowed to do. Your children, what you can say, you cannot say, what they are telling you you're allowed to do, you're not allowed to do. And they're infringing. They are no longer recognizing, especially, I think, under President Obama, they're no longer recognizing the Constitution. And the courts, I don't believe there's such a thing anymore as the justice system. They are all bought and paid for. They all know they want their way done. They tell you, they threaten you. They can do whatever they please with no impunity. They are allowed to just take orders only from the very top. And it's an example. If you just look every day in the paper, you see more and more. Your speech is being affected, what you can talk about, what you can say, what you can own, have.
And this is why we say, 17 years tomorrow, why is the truth still important? People are like, why don't you let this go? Because the people that were involved in the cover-up of this are still in positions of power today. I mean, look at Eric Holder with the Fast and Furious. You have over 2,000 people that have died in that event alone, and it's come out in the mainstream press that the ATF is saying that they're going to utilize this event to enact further gun control legislation. Why is it hard to believe that they would do something with 168 people? They're just become more blatant about it, and exposing this type of crime, holding these people accountable, I believe actually saves lives.
Well, that's another, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to state, I have always maintained that not only did the government know about this bombing ahead of time, there are other things leading up to that too, but the actual morning of the bombing, when I came into work and was dropped off at the front door, there was a man in a suit there that had two individuals who had ATF raid jackets on. And I thought how strange that they would be standing out in front of the building talking like there's nothing going on. And they're supposed to be, and all the years I was there, I have never seen one ever with a raid jacket on, and didn't even recognize that what it was until I found out later from someone that indicates that there is something going down in that building, and they have to dress so that they can be identifiable readily. And in the parking lot across the street that day, there were cars there from Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico. It was amazing that that they had all of these other cars there that generally were not there from out of state.
Yeah, and their stories changed back and forth. Oh, they were at a golf tournament, they were at this, but yet the ATF is outside the building that morning, identified by Jane Graham and other witnesses, and not a single ATF agent died in the building.
They weren't in the building.
They weren't. There was witnesses that overheard them saying, is this why we got paged to not come in this morning?
Yeah, that's right. We should point out they had, an entire floor, didn't they?
Most, yes, most. And that was actually where some of the greater damage was. There was ordnance inside there. There was explosives. There were weapons. They claimed that they didn't exist. And we show in A Noble Lie, we actually have footage of them taking out C4 and weapons out of the building that they say didn't exist.
You have the governor, before he got the talking point, admitting they'd removed the bombs and the bomb squad. And just to be clear for people that are new to this information, the ATF, basically had to threaten people, hey, bandage us up. And they're like, well, you're not hurt. And those people, end up dead, basically. So this is why Terrence Yakey, who was Cop of the Year for saving people, he saw all this and started speaking out. They killed him. And then we have other police officers who were there as well, like Mr. Browning. And the FBI comes to him repeatedly and says, we're going to kill you and your wife. Shut up. I mean, this is, and he's in your film, A Noble Lie, that I should add is available at INFOWARS.com. But the point here is this is life and death. I've been death threatened just as a talk show host covering this. I get death threatened so much I pretty much ignore it, but these are death threats where they tell you what's going on in your house. They tell you who you've been talking to. I want to ask Jane if she's had any threats. I know Hoppy Heidelberg has, where they come to his house and basically point guns at him. I mean, that's how you know this stuff is so incredibly real. But again, the ATF, we know, blew up a Ryder truck months before in a test. That's even been on the news. We know the feds have confiscated all the surveillance tapes. I mean, it's so nightmarish that the feds could come and pick a building with a daycare, because most don't have daycares, and pick it. And we know that's probably why McVeigh, well, according to Nichols and others, got so mad. He's like, it's one thing to blow up some feds to get a police state and to shut down states' rights, but you're going to blow kids up. It's like kind of Tony Montana and Scarface. He'll kill people, but not little kids. You know, I mean, it just shows. And then you have one of the top FBI guys lying and saying he was in Dallas. Turns out he was there the night before. We have the receipts. And then you've got the Deputy Attorney General's own memos where we've got to cover this up, get down to Oklahoma. And now he's the Attorney General and he ships guns to Mexico. And the memo comes out to blame the Second Amendment. And they admit it's killed 2,000 in Mexico, hundreds in the U.S., 3 police officers, 3 Border Patrol. I mean, this is a false flag right there with Operation Fast and Furious. I know I'm ranting, but my God, this is so obvious. Jane, what do you say to that?
I agree with you. You know, I do agree. It's frightening that the government is allowed to use the power to do and enact anything that they want in order to achieve power. And I really, you know, it's all about power and rights. And if you are concerned, if a person is not concerned about their individual rights, then God help this country. It's just unbelievable. There is so much now that the government is doing to take care of everybody for free in order to get their votes. And you know, if you're getting free money out there, if you're getting everything free and you're not working for anything, and I'm not talking about people who can't find a job. I'm not talking about that. We have real problems in this country. We have problems, a lot of it having, and a real concern is the police, the FBI, CIA, the people who are in control and what they are doing. This is not something that has just come about overnight. This has been well planned, well thought out. After the bombing, people can go back and look. The first thing Clinton said was, this was a terrorist attack, well orchestrated. Janet Reno was on there talking about it. And then
they pushed the omnibus terrorist bill.
Right. And then right after that, it wasn't but the same day, and they're saying, no, there was just a couple of individuals. It went from one to the militia first, then the individuals. They were blaming everybody around.
Talk radio.
Yeah. But the problem is, what about the government and what about their liability? You know, we tried a lawsuit. We filed that against the government. And we have tried various things. And my concern also is that when you do things like that, it does put you out there, I think, in the public, and they all say, oh, well, you know, I had people I worked with for years, and they said, oh, God, you know, the government would never, ever do anything like that where there's children. I said, get real. I said, this is about power. This is about taking away your rights. And I said, you know, I was very fortunate. I grew up in a house where my father was a union man. He was an executive in Chicago. And he said, listen, nobody gives you anything for nothing. He said, not only that, he said, watch what you say. Look what the government does. He said, you know, you better be careful. Look at it from every angle. Don't just believe something because somebody tells you that. And so, you know, I grew up wary of just hearing and believing what somebody is telling me. But people would say to me, I worked, well, that's a lie. They would never. I said, yeah, they would. Power is a very big ego trip for anybody. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Janet Reno was out there and saying, you try to get information. What happened? they went out and they stamped everything, you know, that it was national security. Once it gets that stamp on it, you can't go in and look at it.
And let's expand on that. I mean, you guys are the real experts on this. I've gone over it. It's in the film. But, James, how many video cameras, because I have a copy of the LA Times and Washington Times, where valiant FBI agents, this is a decade ago now, went public and said, yeah, we've seen the tapes. It's John Doe number 2 and other men. The tapes weren't erased. The tapes weren't, not on that day. That's a lie. We've seen them. So these were good guys in the FBI, and there are other bombers. And then they basically get in trouble. But the point is, there were so many cameras on there, and they declared national security on them. All these lawsuits to get them, they won't release them. Right there. Why don't you release who did the bombing if it's McVeigh by himself?
Exactly. If it's 17 years on and all the perpetrators have been brought to justice, why can't we not see the tapes? And this is one of the early documents that Jesse Trinidad got that had the FBI actually describing what they saw in the tapes. And it says that they saw the suspects get out of the vehicle. Suspects, plural. There were additional people inside, or additional person inside the van with McVeigh. There were hundreds of tapes that were duplicated. We interviewed the gentleman that actually duplicated the tapes. Said hundreds of them. And the FBI is saying that they can't find them. One of the biggest events that they ever investigated, and they say that they can't find them. Luckily, Jesse Trinidad is working with a judge that is actually trying to take them to task.
Yeah, up in Salt Lake, doing a pretty good job. In fact, just ruled against the feds again. I want to ask you about that, but I want to get stuff on record here, with Jane while we've got her. Absolutely. To break down what's going on. But looking at this and seeing everything that they've done, I mean, it is just so mind-boggling. But a lot of people say, well, I see History Channel, Discovery Channel. They're airing all these shows of the official story right now, not showing the local newscast with the bombs, not showing the governor saying bombs, none of this. But then I talked to all the survivors and people. They've done all these interviews with the media and told them what you're saying now, and the media across the board cuts it.
Exactly. And this is what's very significant about Jane's story, is that the building was actually coming down 8 to 10 seconds before the truck bomb goes off. Now, there's other people that were in the building that day that say the exact same thing. VZ Lawton got hit by debris, and another gentleman jumped under his desk, and then the glass blows in. According to the FEMA report, that blast wave was traveling 1,700 feet per second. How is that possible? I mean, you were in a Windows 95 class that morning,
yes,
right?
Yes, I had just gone up to that, and from the 7th floor to the 9th, and where I was just prior to that, everybody was killed. But when I got up there, yes, you could be, what you felt initially was the ground below, which is all concrete. You felt it. First, you felt the ground rumbling back and forth, and going from east to west, and then or west to east, going back and forth. And then you felt, a few seconds later, you felt the rise of the floor underneath you, actually that rise of force going straight up, and that loud noise. And then when I looked up, the only thing I saw was the roof suspended in air above me. And the smoke.
The instructor actually said that it was an earthquake,
yes,
right?
She thought it was an earthquake and was telling everybody to get under their table at that time, or, under their desk. And I sat there for a second because I said, no, this isn't an earthquake. Whatever this force is, it was so strong. And then I was thrown, I started to move, and I was thrown over to the center of the room. And the next thing I knew, two of my coworkers, Sonia Key and Joy McGirt, came over, and they were digging stuff off of me and getting me up on my feet. And I said, first I told them, I said, I can't move. And I'm afraid to move. And they said, no, you have to get up and get out of here. And it's a bomb. And I looked out, and everything around me was so black. The smoke was so thick that it smelled like sulfur. And I had to put my hands over my nose and face, because if you were to breathe in, it felt like it would just burn your lungs. So they helped me go down the staircase and go down. But when we went down, when we reached the floor where the children were, there was a man in the doorway, and there was debris and things along the stairwell going down. I asked